Hello, everybody, and welcome again to this edition of Transcendent. Transcendent is the Facebook Live broadcast of San Antonio in black, white, and brown, also called SABWB. What is SABWB? Thank you for asking. It is a leadership space where influencers from every race, from every position, and every perspective converge for two main purposes. One is to build trusting relationships one with another. We know we won't work any further with each other than we trust one another. So building trust is a must. Secondly, we collaborate both on the value and the implementation of principles that shape the culture. I hope you caught those last three words, shape the culture. It's being shaped by somebody right now. And often those those who know what a healthy environment looks like are so busy trying to make it happen on an individual basis that we fail to pull together collective activity to preserve the things that we know makes life good for everybody who's in it. SABWB's job is to pull everybody together and work cooperatively to make sure that the environment that we know sustains healthy communities, healthy cities, actually function here in the city of San Antonio. Your partnership is welcomed and invited and necessary if we're going to remain a strong voice for you in all of those spheres of influence. Some of you have heard it referred to as the seven mountains of influence, where education and sports and entertainment, music, business, uh, religion, all of the mountains of influence that shape a culture uh, needs leadership. If there is a dearth in America, one of those dearths is certainly a dearth of leadership. We have the responsibility to cultivate leaders and find them, and connect them in those spheres of influence, so we can begin to create an echo chamber of truth. That was the name of our conference several years ago, is Echo Chamber of Truth. So I want to give to you because you give to us in your partnership. We love giving, and so we're going to start by giving you a whole bag of goods. This is the bag that comes in. It says SABWB on the front as a conversation starter. It's a nylon bag, so take it to the local CVS or Walgreens and put your stuff in it and get home with it safely. Inside it, you're going to have a couple things. A koozie. It's been over 100 degrees for almost an eternity here in the city of San Antonio, and you need something to keep your cold drinks cold. And your hot drinks hot too as the winter comes along, because our temperatures are going to change. Then inside that same bag are two books. Leaders are readers, and readers are leaders. This first book, Heaven on Earth, and the second, The Kingdom at War, both written by the late, great Alan Vincent. God used him and his wife, Eileen, to shape the nations of the world, literally. Begin pulling them out of Great Britain with all their British accents and sending them to India. And in that environment in India, God used them to change the course of the world. So I'm entirely thankful to have gotten to know him and to have an impartation from him in my own life. And his wife, Eileen, is still living. He passed here in the city of San Antonio, and he came to sow his life into this city and literally did so. His wife is back in Europe, but still being a nation changer as she and Alan have been. Those books are going to be rich resources for you. But the last thing that's in that gift package is this right here, this SABWB mug. The reason I hold it out for last is because SABWB has partnered with a coffee company from Rwanda. If you don't know, Africa is the birthplace of coffee, nation of Ethiopia. And in that tropic region, Uganda, Rwanda, coffee is grown because it requires a certain altitude and requires a certain soil and a certain amount of sun and rain that only is conducive for growth in equatorial areas, as is the nation of Rwanda. We've partnered with some people there. I want to just say this to you really quick before we go to commercial. You know the families that have oil, because the money associated with that oil causes them to build big houses around the world and fly jets and all of that. Did you know what the second most lucrative commodity on planet Earth is, second only to oil? It's coffee. It's coffee. But you don't see coffee growers with big mansions and jets and all of that, because the coffee growers are taken advantage of, to say it nicely, all over the world. The product is bought at pennies on a dollar and taken and sold for billions of dollars annually. But Be Easy Coffee has found a door in that market, and we've gotten some cooperation with some farms, and you're going to sip on premium organic coffee. And as you do, you'll support ministry, and you also lift impoverished nations halfway around the world. So it's coming. We already got a harvest here in the city of San Antonio, and you'll soon be sipping Be Easy coffee out of your coffee mug. I'm going to take you to a commercial right now. I'm standing in the coffee field in that commercial. And when I come back, a very familiar face and voice to many of you, we're going to dialogue. I'll be right back right after this. All right, I'm here in Rwanda, and we're up in the coffee farms right now. So I've been telling you about the upcoming Be Easy Coffee organic premium coffee. And these are beans that I have in my hand. These are brand new beans. There's already a harvest already in place. These are just the early parts of the second harvest. And these beds that you see that are now empty will be full of organic premium coffee beans. And you have an opportunity to get a bag of Be Easy coffee for yourself. And we're going to work, of course, as I said before, on the San Antonio blend for SABWB. You'll be able to get your coffee mug and sip premium organic coffee. I told you it was coming, and it's on the way. Okay. Indeed, it is on the way, and it's on the way quite quickly. So I'm excited about that. I'm also excited about you joining us tonight for our Flashpoints inside the conflicts that are shaping our world. And I have two guests. My first guest is Cal Thomas. As I said to him before we went on the air, I've been here in the city of San Antonio about 40 years now. And I remember when the San Antonio Express News carried him, and I remember how much of a respected voice for conservative and common sense Cal was here in the city of San Antonio. The Express News found him too much common sense, and they no longer take his syndicated columns. But he is, as I discovered tonight, still very much alive and vibrant and doing great things around our country. At one time, in over 500 newspapers, almost half the amount of papers in the country carried his column, and he's still on twice a week around the country. So, Cal, thanks for being with us tonight, and welcome to SABW.
Thank you very much, Mr. Flowers. I'm really fascinated by your coffee. I'm going to have to get some of that. It sounds fantastic.
Yes, it's coffee with a cause. So, Cal, 50 years you have been writing on how the United States have been developing. What have you discovered in 50? What are the let's say the three top salient points that you have recognized in the change in our country in the last 50 years?
Well, Bishop Flowers, I think we've left the principles that the founding fathers instilled in this country. You think of this wonderful line written by Thomas Jefferson: we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, not evolved from slime, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, like life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. Now, in the next clause, it says, and that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. Yeah. Now, why is it necessary for government to do that? Because, as James Madison said, if men were angels, we wouldn't need government. But men are not angels and need to be controlled by the power of God from within, or the power of the state from without, but acting under God. Otherwise, it becomes a dictatorship. One
Hmm.
of the things that I think we've gotten away from in the education system in this country is the teaching of basic truths and facts. We are behind China and many other countries in reading, math, science, and even history. And the reason for that, among other things, is that we are now focusing on woke subjects, drag
Yes.
queen story time and kindergarten,
Yes.
critical race theory. None of these things prepare a young person for an independent and successful life. And the teachers' unions are basically running the education system along with the politicians to which they give political donations. And that's
Yes.
another problem. This is why school choice is now being debated in Texas and in place in 37 other states is so important. Parents need to have a choice. Parents are the primary influencers and controllers of their children, not the
Yes.
state.
Not the
And
state.
it's amazing to me that my friends on the left are for pro-choice when it comes to abortion, but anti-choice when it comes to education for those fortunate enough to have been born.
Yes. Well, it was Abraham Lincoln who said, Cal, that the philosophy in the classroom in one generation will be the philosophy of government in the next.
Yeah.
And they understand that. Therefore, they have set the system up to perpetuate an ideology in the classroom that becomes dominant in the culture later.
Right. Well, they used to have something in America in the late 19th, early 20th century called the McGuffey Readers. These were supplements in the
Yes.
public schools, and they included things like patriotism, loving your country,
Hmm.
respecting your parents. There were scripture verses in them. Uh, my question has been what of those values and virtues were bad so that we had to get rid of them and replace them with what we have now? Well, the answer is none, of course.
Mm.
But we have a controlling ideology that I've called secular progressive that teaches we evolve from slime, that parents should not know if their kid decides to be a different gender or visits the school nurse for a birth control device or
Right.
a pill. And I think, Virginia has led the way on this. This is what propelled Governor Glenn Youngkin to the governorship when he
That's right.
exposed all this mess in Loudoun County during the COVID shutdown. Parents were actually able to find out what was being taught to their kids,
Hmm.
and that's why many of them, abandoned the public schools and went for homeschooling or private schools. School choice is making that increasingly possible, and I think if you get that in Texas, along with these other states, you're going to break the back of the education monopoly, which is the last monopoly in America.
And Texas, of course, is a big star in that crown because of the number of children that we have in K through 12th grade is over
Yeah,
6 million children.
it's
And
amazing.
that's more than some states' total
Yeah, that's right.
population.
Well, I would think that Texas, being having the profile of being a conservative state, would have been way out in front on this, but it's not. I think you mentioned California earlier. I was in Los Angeles last week. I wrote a column about the education system there, and I didn't know this until I researched it. California is the #1 state in the country when it comes to illiteracy. That just blew me away.
Mm.
And it is disproportionately affecting minority communities, African Americans and Hispanics. This it contributes to the circle of failure and poverty in this country. If you can't get a decent education, if you just have passing for whatever reason just to get them out and don't give them a degree that means anything, you've doomed them to an unsuccessful future. I call it the ultimate racism. George W. Bush used to call it, what did he say it was? It was
No child left behind.
no,
No
yeah, it
child
was
left
no
behind.
child left behind, but the soft bigotry of low expectations,
Yes,
and
yes.
that's what, and I thought that was a brilliant phrase, and it's so
Hmm.
true.
Yes. You have a book coming out that kind of congeals all of this 50 years of thought on what's happening in America. It's called A Watchman in the Night.
Mm.
Tell us a little bit about that book.
Well, I took the title from an Old Testament verse when the ancient Israelites used to post a watchman on the wall at
Hmm.
night after the gates were closed to keep bad
Yes.
guys from coming in. So I kind of see myself as a watchman, and the bad guys in this case are the secular progressives
Hmm.
who want to shape our children into their worldview so that they'll vote for people that that they want in office.
Yeah.
It's not
Yes.
a column collection, but it's a look. My column started in 1984, at the beginning of Ronald Reagan's second term, and it goes year by year and analyzing some of the significant events in each of those years. For young people, it'll be kind of a history lesson. For older people, it'll be a reminder of where we've come from. And I think we've come a long way and not in the right direction. We have a $33 trillion debt. We have an open border. No nation can sustain itself on those two things. And then we have a loss of a shared moral value system. We used to say Pledge of Allegiance or Bible verses read in public schools. All of that has been thrown out. And then we wonder why there are things the way they are these days. It's not a mystery.
When you look at the future of this country with those things that you just said in mind, what do you see?
Well, I remember something Billy Graham once said: America is not at a crossroads, as some people say. America is a long way down the wrong road and needs to come back to the crossroads and take the right road. I think that's true in our education system and in so many other things. I wrote an earlier book called America's Expiration Date. And what it was a look at great empires and nation states of the past. Each one of them had one or more of these characteristics: the massive national debt, the open border, and the loss of a shared moral value system. We have all three of those in place at the moment. What makes us think we're going to be able to survive the judgment of history, much less the judgment of God, if we don't come to our senses and turn this around? Ronald Reagan used to say we're only one generation.
Man, you can say that again, Cal.
Yeah.
What makes us think that we're going to survive the judgment of history, much less the judgment of God? That's tweetable, folks.
Well, it's true. I mean, there are certain characteristics that inhabit people and nations. And a nation is only as good as its people, and its people are only as good as the one they follow. And we are rapidly abandoning God in this country. Abraham Lincoln, you mentioned him earlier. He issued a proclamation for a day of fasting and prayer during the Civil War.
And many times in our history.
He said it's the duty of nations as well as of men to owe their dependence upon the overruling power of God and to confess this truth, announced in the Holy Scriptures and proven by all history, that those nations only are blessed whose God is the Lord. And that's true, I believe. It's true for America, and it's true for every other country that either takes God seriously and his word or rejects it. And I fear that we are rejecting it more and more in America. It's reflected in our school system. It's reflected in our universities, as we've seen recently in these pro-Palestinian demonstrators out at Harvard, Princeton, Yale, University of California system. It's amazing. I think it shocked a lot of people that so many young people believe these things and that are anti-Semitic and that hate Israel and are on the side of the genocidists.
But with all of that going on, particularly on the college campus, I'm thankful for the revival of people like Michael Knowles and Charlie Kirk and Candace Owen, and who are going on these hostile grounds now called college campuses and telling the truth, sharing the truth. They're reaching a lot of these young people, and their eyes are beginning to come open, because if they don't come open, Cal, we'll be on the scrap heap of history, just like many other great empires.
No, you're quite right. And, last I checked, America is not mentioned in the scriptures. Israel is, and Babylonia,
is.
Nineveh, but not the United States.
Right.
So we better get our act together. And it starts, Barbara Bush said something really significant once. She said, if you have children, they must come first. Our success as a nation, your success as a family, depends less on what happens in the White House and more on what happens in your house.
Yes. So where does a decimated society begin to rebuild? In your 50 years of looking back?
Well, it starts in the schools. It starts in the home. I'm just amazed at how many Christian and conservative parents continue to send their kids into these re-education camps. And that's what they are.
Colleges and universities.
Indeed. Yes, absolutely. And they pay for it on top of that.
Right.
We don't send our service members to Russia or China or Iran to be trained. We train them here in our own country with our own values and our own weapon systems and our own policies. But so many people send their kids into these indoctrination centers and are shocked to find that they
Wow.
come out different than when they went in. I think we can still do something for those people who keep their kids in public schools, but you got to show up at the school board meetings, and you've got to show up at election time, and you've got to inform yourself who is running and what they believe in, because the school boards determine virtually everything about the content of what is in the textbooks and what is taught in the classroom. And if that's not important, if you're focusing only on the White House, then you're not really engaging in a way that will produce a well-rounded graduate in our school system. So it begins with the parents. The parents have the ultimate power. The parents are starting to take back that power, thankfully. And I think that's the only way we're going to see things turn around in this country.
You're going to lend your voice and your knowledge to an effort right here in the city of San Antonio that your granddaughter is spearheading, Parents United for Freedom at Crystal Keen.
Yes.
When is that event, and where can people come here? And also, where can they get your book?
Well, that's very nice. The book can be purchased at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, or you can go to a regular bookstore and ask if they have it. And if the clerk is a liberal, they'll probably turn several colors. Your guest following me will have all the details of my appearance in San Antonio. I hope that people will sign up and come out. It'll be a fun evening. I'll have copies of my book there that I'll be happy to sign. Ideal for Christmas giving, or give it to your favorite atheist on April 1st.
You're something else, Cal.
The fool in the senator's heart, there is no God, right? Okay, you got that. Good. So your guest after me will have all the details.
All right. So if you were going to say to people perhaps who have never heard of Cal Thomas, don't know your viewpoint, don't know anything about these 50 years of watching America change, what would you say that was in that book that you wouldn't want them to miss?
Well, I think there are certain things called truth that are objective, not subjective. I remember Ted Koppel, the former ABC News correspondent, once said, "Truth is not a polite tap on the shoulder. Truth is a howling reproach." So I've written a countercultural book, to borrow a phrase from the 1960s. It goes against the grain and the direction that the country is headed in hope that we'll come to our senses, begin to turn things around, and pass on to our children and grandchildren those things that we have inherited from the greatest generation, the World War II generation. So that's my great hope in this book, and I hope people will get it and read it and pass it along and benefit from it.
Well, I because you have a 50-year span, I could spend the evening literally asking you, when you came on 50 years ago, for example, Roe v. Wade had just passed. The Yom Kippur War, right now, 50 years later, we're in another conflict in the Middle East between Israel and Hamas. I'd pick your brain concerning what you have seen over those 50 years, and you've already voiced a lot of it, particularly in our educational system, that is producing a non-patriot. Our educational system is producing non-patriots.
That's well said.
And you obviously have seen that as the sympathy with Palestinian terrorism is being embraced. But I was encouraged, Cal, when I heard that a group of billionaires withdrew their support from Harvard because of that school's position, that pro-Palestinian position. Do you think that there's an underlying group of people who are patriotic beyond materialistic, who will toe the line for the nation?
Well, I think, not only the people pulling money out of Harvard, which has the largest endowment of any university in the country,
right,
but people like Larry Hogan, the former Republican governor of Maryland, who's really a good guy, who has resigned from 2 fellowships at the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard, with a blistering statement about what some of these universities are standing for now. I think it's a shock to an awful lot of people. People say, well, I went to that school and it was okay then. Yeah, it was okay then, but things have
Hmm.
deteriorated since you left. And you probably shouldn't be given to the alumni fund and
Right.
supporting the school at all now, because it's not what it was when you were there. So
And
we
we
got to
can
think
say
smart about
say
these
the
things.
same thing about public schools. A lot of us are products of public schools, and it
You
was
got to
okay when we went, but not now.
Exactly right. I'm a product of a public school education, and it was fine. I was taught real subjects. Now you've got third, fourth graders who can't read up to grade level. You've got people who don't know the history of their own country. People who are not minimally proficient in science and math. I mean, what do we pay? And we're paying more in our tax dollars for this than ever
Yeah,
before, but we're
yeah.
not getting a return on our dollars.
Are you aware of where we are in Texas in terms of the 50 states that
I am, yes. The bill that's now in the special session of the legislature. Some critics are saying that the Republicans, just to get it through, are loading it up with a lot of Christmas tree bulbs. But I just think, I think we need to take the argument to the other side. We don't have anything to defend. Who are Christian and conservative. It's not our values that have been ruining the education system in the country. It's the other side. So let's stop
Right.
being defensive and get on offense and make
Yes.
them the other side accountable for their beliefs and value system.
It's Republican voters in Texas, Cal, that have held up school choice. There's not
Yes.
enough Democrats in the House to do it. They would if they had the numbers. They just don't have the numbers.
Yeah.
So school choice is being withheld largely on the basis of rural Republicans, because in those rural areas, the larger employer are the schools and the prison systems.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, look, school choice is not just about another school. I don't know, I haven't read the bill in Texas, but many of these school choice options offer funding for people who want to homeschool. So in
Yes.
rural areas, that is
SB1
particularly
includes that. Here in Texas, it
good.
includes a homeschool option.
And Republicans in rural areas should not oppose it.
Right. Well, Cal, you want to shoot us with anything else before?
Well, we'll just tease people for the next visit, Bishop.
All right. All right.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for
All
being
right,
with
God
us
bless
tonight.
you. All right.
God bless you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, folks, I want to go quickly now to our second commercial concerning our Freedom Walk. That's coming up. That's coming up January 13th, 2024. Let's take a look at this commercial, and I'll be back with another friend right after this. Hello, San Antonio. I want to personally invite you to our Freedom Walk. The Freedom Walk will take place January the 13th, 2024. We're going to begin the Freedom Walk at Lincoln Park, 2915 East Commerce Street. Lincoln Park is named in honor of our 16th President, Abraham Lincoln, who issued the Emancipation Proclamation January 1st, 1863, freeing the slaves. We're going to take an accurate historical look at the impact of that proclamation, what it had on the war, what it has on our country, and what it has had on the world. We will leave Lincoln Park, making our first stop in the 2-mile walk to MLK Park on Commerce Street in front of Second Baptist Church. There on Commerce Street in front of Second Baptist, we will be reminded that the church has an irreplaceable voice in the shaping and the establishment of civics, using fixed, uniform, and universal laws that have governed humanity and the peaceful progress of humanity on the planet. The church has an irreplaceable role there. Once we have finished at Commerce Street, we will go down to the Commerce Bridge, still on Commerce Street, but on Commerce at the bridge, which we have dubbed the Pettus Bridge, symbolizes the place where ideologies clashed and where the stronger of the two, not the dogs and hoses, but the men and women that had conviction about unity, about the power of unity, sent a message to the entire world. And right there on the Pettus Bridge, we will again announce that unity of purpose and solidarity of heart and righteous focus will again shape the culture of our city. When we leave the Pettus Bridge, we're going to end up in MLK Park. celebrating the legislation that effectively ended legalized discrimination in this country. And then we will talk about the manifestation, how even in light of it not being legal anymore, how do we fully manifest it in every aspect of life and culture? Of course, that is through and by those same fixed, universal, and uniformed biblical principles that have shaped humanity safely during our sojourn here on the earth. I want to announce to you also that our Grand Marshal for our Freedom Walk this year will be none other than the niece of our slain civil rights leader, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Dr. Alveda King. She will be our Grand Marshal this year. And so come and join her and the rest of San Antonio on our Freedom Walk. It is inspirational, it is informational, and you will enjoy every step. I want to also announce to you that the San Antonio Spurs have partnered with the Freedom Walk this year in this way, in that those of you who register to be a walker in our Freedom Walk this year will, at the end of your registration, immediately get a link where you can get severely discounted tickets to the Spurs game that night held in the Frost Center, which was previously the AT&T Center. The San Antonio Spurs will host the Chicago Bulls. Wemby and the Spurs will run the Bulls out of town. And you'll have an opportunity to have good seats in the arena to be able to see that, because they're great seats and they're discounted tickets as well. So as soon as you register, a link will be sent to you so that you can Freedom Walk and Wemby watch both in the same day. We look forward to being with you in the daytime for the walk, and then that night in the Frost Center as we watch Wemby and the Spurs run the Bulls out of town. Thank you so much. God bless you, and we will see you on the 24th, in 2024 on January the 13th. January the 13th. You'll be inspired and informed, and it's going to lift and change your life and shape the culture of our city. God bless you. Love you big. Bye-bye now. So you see that there is a lot going on in our city, and SABWB is at the center of the action. We're seated right in the middle of where great things are happening. And I want you to join us for the Freedom Walk on the 13th of January, 2024. And as soon as you register, as the commercial said, you'll receive a link where you can purchase tickets at a discounted price, even more discounted than you would find them on Ticketmasters. In fact, you'll get twice as many tickets for the same price by buying them through your partnership with SABWB and participation in the Freedom Walk than you could go to Ticketmasters and get them. It's going to be a great blessing. Bring your family out, walk that morning, and Wemby watch that night in the arena as the Spurs run the Bulls out of town. All right, so now I want to bring in a second friend to SABWB. His name is James Barnes. James works for Liberty for the Kids. Thank you, James, for being on with us tonight.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
James, tell the people about what Liberty for the Kids, what is that?
Yeah, absolutely. Liberty for the Kids was started about 3 years ago, focusing this legislative session just passed, looking at the question of school choice. And it's led by some great folks, just trying to really just force that conversation forward. That's what we got to do as parents, as people of concerned with the whole school choice conversation. And so what we're doing is we're working all over the state, talking to just families, grassroots leaders, legislators, whoever will lend us their ear to have this conversation. And we've spent about 2.5 years leaning into this before the session started. So and then of course during session we turned all that energy to the House.
Did you ever think, of course, as Cal said, our last guest, there are 37 states already with some form of school choice already in place. But the big diamonds in the crown is California and Texas. You can almost forget about California going the way of school choice. But Texas is second in terms of the number of children involved in the K through 12 system. Did you ever think we'd get here?
right where we're at, yeah, it's very comfortable where we're at. I think this is going to happen eventually. I think parents, like I'm wearing a shirt, parents do matter. And
Mhm.
even if we, like we were said, we didn't get it during session, we're in a third special session at this point, possibly looking at a fourth special session or other alternatives. But we're not going away because this is an issue that matters to our kids. I've got 5 kids. Just no possible way for me to walk away from what we need to do. And I think there's parents all over the state that feel the same way.
You're the father of 5 children, so take a minute and tell from a father's point of view, not just from an activist point of view,
Amen.
but from a father's point of view, why school choice is important to you.
You know, early on at the early ages, maybe I wasn't able to see some of the influences that were happening, but by the time they got to the adolescent age where I thought I had control of, or at least I had given them the seed to move and flourish, it literally was stripped overnight by the time they get to adolescent age. And I didn't realize the power that was coming out of our schools against me.
Mhm.
And so I had to fight tooth and nail, not necessarily fight. What I mean by fight is to get my children's attention
Yeah.
about the issues. And it's not, and it wasn't just an easy conversation. It was several years of working through this conversation to
Yeah.
get their attention in the right direction. We have it as a family, and I know it works, but we got to fight.
So in the school classroom, the teacher is put forth as an expert in their field and educated in their field. And so the student, our children, consider that the teacher is smarter than mom and dad,
Right.
and therefore should be listened to more than mom and dad. Because
Correct.
by the way, they're teaching, and mom and dad may be, taking on a menial job to make a living. And
Right.
these have gone on to college, got a degree, and are experts in their field of knowledge. So
Right.
they owe, our children feel like they owe more of their academic allegiance to their teachers than they
Right.
do to their parents. It sounds like you saw that early on and you moved to do something
Oh,
about it.
yeah. No,
So for
it's
the parents that are
unbelievable.
out there, James, what
Mhm.
was that process like? How did you,
Well, I
what
can give you a
caused you to
couple.
start seeing it, and then what did you do to change it?
I'll give an example. Just I kept on running into this situation with my daughter and her homework. Wasn't, it was innocent enough in this whole process, but she kept on insisting of the way to do things, and just it didn't make sense to me, and there was a little disconnect, there, and part of it was my daughter, her disconnect of what she was supposed to do. So the teaching wasn't the problem. The problem was taking the authority from her father and saying, "Hey, give me attention for a second. I'm going to help you out." She almost
Mhm.
didn't even want to give me the attention.
Mm.
And that's the problem there, where it's like they just, and once again, I'm educated. I'm a hard fighter. I'm an advocate, and I
Mhm.
still struggle in this space, making sure that my kids are positioned in strength. And that's my goal as a father, is to position my family in strength so that we can survive, thrive.
Just a couple of days ago, James, I saw you on the campus of UTSA. You were there for the Turning Point USA event that happened on that campus, led by that great chapter leader there on the campus. But your daughter was with you.
Yes.
Um, why was it important for you that she be there?
Because this conversation doesn't end today. It's a
Mhm.
conversation that will continue going on, and I want to give her that foundation for
Yeah.
tomorrow. In fact, our last guest was talking about how we see the crumbling of our society going a
Mhm.
direction that we do not agree with. I don't think it's over with. I read the Bible every day, and I see that we do have the ability to turn to God and reach into Him, and He will give us that right path to get on.
Mhm.
So I want her to know that. I want her to see what true patriotism looks like. I want her to see. I want her to see the fight, because a lot of the problem is our fear of walking forward, and the system is designed to bring fear of us walking forward. Um, Weirdly so, I don't know why. I guess I could make some guesses, but either way, it's not designed to be friendly towards us. Another example I had, a personal example, my son. It was anyway. Long story short, school bus issue. I called the school transportation department to express my concerns, and I just got belligerent. They attacked me, and it was weird, and it didn't make any sense to me. Another example
They
was
attacked you for asking questions about your experience with your
bringing
children
up
on the school bus.
issues. And in fact, it was weird because I had just talked to the San Antonio Police Department here in our area. We've had a lot of rise in crime in San Antonio. So they came to the area and they told us, please report anything, because that's how the community resolves issues. So my mind, as soon as I had an issue with the transportation department, I thought, well, let's report this issue because this will help us all resolve the issue. When I called the phone, I'm giving you anecdotal stories, but I tell you, I'm talking to parents all over the state, every single corner of the state, and it's all the same. Yeah. It's the same story. So I know that it's not just an isolated incident with me, and I see it everywhere.
Yeah. So it sounds to me like, from your experience, you see the value of parental activism or parental involvement. Maybe is an easier word, but a truer word would maybe be an activist. You are actively participating in what is shaping the mind of your children in the academic arena.
Yes. I think that's critical for us. As in fact, I think that is my only job as a father. To be honest with you, I don't know if there's any more work to do as a dad besides get my children foundationally stable, and so that they could pick up the mantle and carry on, whatever it is we're towards the assembly that we're sending them off to, and we want them to do that.
Okay, so James, we have a bill, the SB1, that has come out of the Senate. It's really a universal school choice bill, having in it a component even for homeschooling.
Right.
Although the $500 million cap is not enough, there's enough surplus to fully fund school choice.
Right.
But the House, in response to that bill, has come up with its own bill. How do you see this? Are we going to have to go into, as Cal said, because the Republicans seem to want to put a lot of Christmas bulbs on this bill? Is it going to mandate another special session to clear off some of that weighty stuff and get down to the basics of funding school choice in Texas? What do you think?
That's exactly what's going to happen. I don't think we're poised. Some magic fairy comes out of somewhere maybe, but right now we're not poised to get school choice done during this special session now. Maybe we are. Like you said, there's a lot of moving parts, but I just don't see it. I'm talking to folks. I'm looking at the moving parts, and I think we are going to go into either a fourth special session, like you said, to remove all those hard parts. I think that's what's going to happen. I've heard a couple of folks talk about carving turkeys while working on this. So I think that's kind of the hint.
Talk about what now?
Carving turkeys. We're going to go into a Thanksgiving session. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. And so I've had some, once again, this is all anecdotal stories. We're all chit-chatting, all of us activists all over the state, seeing what's moving, what's happening. And right now it's very quiet, at least on the activist side. We work with, just kind of give you an example. We're just one member of a huge coalition of partners that are working with the governor to make this happen. You've got everybody from, Liberty for the Kids, Texas, Public Policy Foundation is taking a big, huge lead on this, as well as tons of other organizations. So we're all
local
working
and
forward.
Statewide. Some of those local organizations that are informing San Antonians is SABWB, for example. We're telling you about it tonight. Parents United for Freedom, Cal's granddaughter, putting forth, and with some successes under her belt, I might add, of putting good people on school boards, because this monster is such a juggernaut, the school system. It is such a huge juggernaut that one silver bullet is not going to take it out. A school choice bill is not going to take it out. It's going to need to be several attempts. Those who are already good teachers, good administrators, who are already involved in the public school system, good people on school boards who know how to keep out the junk and reinforce the good in terms of what is being taught in our public school system. Um, Bible clubs on the school premises, which is allowed. It's a legal aspect in Texas. School choice. There's a lot of things that have to work together to slow this juggernaut down and turn it in the direction that it needs to go.
You know, one of my greatest joys, it's going to sound weird, I'm fighting for school choice, but one of my greatest joys is my wife is a public school teacher and my daughter is a public school teacher here in San Antonio at a wonderful school district. You know, they have their problems. We're working through those things too, but I will tell you, it's just not about, for me, it's not about ending the public school systems at all. It's about
Absolutely.
having the ability to, as a parent, to have that authority just to speak into our children's lives, and that's being stripped from us daily. In fact, there's some states right now that are allowing their children to be, they can't even make the decision on their gender. The parents are being stripped of that, and
Right.
that's just not okay. I'm not going to have it. Sorry, I'm working hard against it.
So it's organizations like Liberty for the Kids, like others that we have named this evening, like SABWB.
Yes, 100%. Thank you for
We're
that.
not solely, SABWB is not a sole issue organization, nor is it a sole subject matter organization as far as politics is concerned. But all of these areas that are shaping our lives, they're inevitably going to have an influence. We therefore ought to, we being the body of Christ and the people of God, ought to have an influence in those